tell, we have our finest blue in uniform here to be our panelists for this evening. So we have Michelle Cook is the Chief of Police at Atlantic Beach. We have Chief Pat Dooley, who is the Police Chief of Jax Beach. And we have Commander Gary Snyder, who is representing the Neptune Beach Police Department. So, this is their annual post-4th of July report out and to talk to us about some of the major issues that they're facing in our beaches communities. And they're going to talk to us about how we can help them do their job. Okay? Before we get started with the panelists, I do have a few announcements. Beaches Watch is a citizens organization, nonprofit. We are a members organization. So we depend on our members to help us do what we do. And that is, we really want to educate our citizens here at the beach so that you guys can make informed decisions when it comes to your elected officials, when it comes to decisions that are being made that affects our quality of life, and just generally being involved, because unless your voice is being heard, you're not going to know what our needs are in the community. So we really encourage citizen involvement on all levels. As you can see, because we are a volunteer organization and we're a volunteer board, we really can use help from our citizens and our members. So this is some of the ways that you guys can help us give back to the community. We're always looking for members to contribute their time, treasure, talent, either one, two, or all three. And some of the ways that you can help us is to maybe think about joining our board. We have a 1-year term and a 2-year term, and then we have a life term. We also have our membership committee. Eileen Klinsky is our membership director, and you met her when you came in. As I said, our organization is a membership organization, so we really depend on our members to support us because we do things in the community. We give back in various ways, such as we have scholarships that we give to, that we award Fletcher Senior High School students. We have a give back board to organizations or individuals who have gone above and beyond their mission to improve the quality of life here at the beach. And then we have our Friends of the Beaches Award that also recognizes individuals or organizations that do the same. So if you are not a member, we ask that you maybe grab one of these brochures on your way out. Take a look at what we do. And our membership is very affordable. On the agenda, hopefully you picked one up. We have a $15 membership for individuals, and $20 for family, and $5 for students. But you have to show your student ID. No, I'm just kidding. So we have a few announcements on our agenda. Hopefully you grab one of these. It has some important information about upcoming events. And on the back of it, even more importantly, it lists the information of your elected officials, their contact information. We are recording, we are videotaping our meetings as we do every month, and we will have it uploaded to our website. And this is for people who are not able to attend the meeting, or if maybe there was something you heard and you weren't sure that's what you heard, you can always go to our website and replay it. But for our viewers who are not here, I'll just kind of briefly talk about upcoming events. So Atlantic Beach will host their town hall meeting on Saturday, July 14th at 10 o'clock, and that'll be in the Commission Chambers. The town hall topics are going to be presented by property appraiser Jerry Holland about Amendment 1 and other Florida amendments, Atlantic Beach referendum regarding primary and general elections, and the Atlantic Beach mayoral terms. Atlantic Beach is also hosting their first Stormwater Master Plan workshop that's coming up this coming Monday, July 16th at 5:30. That will also be in Commission Chambers. They are looking at updating and upgrading their Stormwater Master Plan. Neptune Beach, the Community Development Board, they're going to have a very special meeting coming up on Wednesday, July 18th at 6 p.m. This is going to be held at the Fletcher High School Auditorium. This will be addressing the proposed development called 500 Atlantic. Is anyone not familiar with that proposed? Okay, I didn't think so in this group. So please, if you want to be heard, whether you support it or you don't, please try to attend that meeting. See, Jacksonville Beach City Manager, the search firm meeting, they're holding that on Monday, also July 16th at 5:30, and that'll be in the Jacksonville Beach City Council chambers. We will have, as you know, we have 2 elections coming up, Neptune Beach and Jax Beach. All the seats are being contested, basically, so we'll be hosting a candidate forum in October, and we are also hosting our school board candidate forum on August 1st. That'll be at Atlantic Beach Elementary at 7 o'clock. We'll have, I think, at least 1 candidate for the school board here. So as far as the candidates for Jax Beach for District 1, Seat 4, we have Corey Nichols and Shandy Thompson. District 2, Seat 5, we have Georgette Dumont and Joe Loretta. I think Georgette's here. And Joe's here, okay. District 3, Seat 6, we have Sandy Golding, who's here, and Dan Jansen, who's here. Welcome. For Neptune Beach City Council, for Seat 4, we have Josh Messenger and Tom Patton. That's Tom. And Seat 5, we have Fred Jones and Bo Maurer. I did not see either one of them. So, okay. I think that's all the announcements, unless there's anything from the floor that anyone would like to share at this time. And we also have Fox 30 here, just to let you know on the side who will be filming and hopefully see you at 11. So you're supposed to be here to be on camera. If you're not supposed to be here, then hide. So we'll go ahead and get to our panelists now. We'll start with Julie.
Start.
So, because I don't have the bio, I usually like to do the bio, just to introduce you guys. If you could just give us a brief background
Sure.
of how long you've been here and that sort of thing.
I've
Okay?
been-
Thank you. Here.
Yeah, people don't usually have a problem hearing me. I've been in law enforcement since 1979. I started my career up in the Chicago area. I grew up here in Orange Park, actually, and my family moved up there in the 70s. And then I got on the police department up there and ended up back down here in Florida in 1985 in Panama City Beach for a few years, and back over to Jacksonville. Finally got back over here with the rest of my family in 91. I've been here since 91. I came up through the ranks. And I took over as interim police chief in October of 2012, and then I was appointed full-time position of police chief in May of 2013. And I've been in that position since then. So, enough about me. One of the main reasons I know we're always here on this time of year is everybody wants to know about the 4th of July and what kind of calls we had and how the overall picture of the event went. And I'm really happy to say this year in Jacksonville Beach, we probably had one of the best 4th of Julys that I've experienced since I've been a police officer here. And I've worked every single one of them. My wife and I had that conversation the other day. I've worked every 4th of July somewhere since I've been 19 years old, so this is going to be retiring in January, so this is going to be a good experience for us next year. Watch the fireworks instead of being in the middle of them. And, but we had really a very, very good family 4th of July this year. We didn't have nearly the problems we've had in the past. We did have about 304 calls for service, which sounds like a lot, but actually for us, that's really not that bad for a busy weekend. It was certainly not the 4th of July. We're usually up to 500 or 600 range. We had 14 arrests, all of which were misdemeanors, some alcohol related, some traffic related, those kinds of things. So, and again, that may sound like a lot of arrests, but again, that's kind of on a normal weekend in the summer, that's kind of what we experienced. So it really was very, very good. We didn't have any incidents that I'm aware of that stand out to us over that 4th of July holiday. What I did say from what I saw that weekend or that night specifically was, I think we had a lot of people from Jacksonville here, but everybody was really behaving. I think we had some of the crowd that didn't want to go to the landing that came, and there were families more than anything. And then immediately after the fireworks, they really started to clear out pretty well. When I say that, it takes us an hour and 15 to 20 minutes to get all the traffic out of here. So, but that's still, it went very, very well. We didn't have any major incidents, nobody got hurt in traffic or anything like that. So, as far as our 4th of July goes, I'm really glad to present to you that it went very well in Jacksonville Beach this year. It doesn't always go that way for us, but this year, possibly because of the weather a little bit, possibly because of the fact that it was on a Wednesday was helpful for us. But it was a great event, and the fireworks came off without a hitch. We had a little bit of rain at the beginning of the fireworks, and then it kind of went away, and everything worked out fine. So from our perspective, everything went very, very well. So that's really for the 4th of July. That's all I have. And I know people will probably have some questions about other things that they want to talk about Jacksonville Beach. And I think, I don't know what format you want to use. If you want to do that at the end, or what you'd like to do.
We'll do the Q&A at the end, so everybody will.
So, yeah, I think that's better. So I'll let Chief Cook tell us what happened in Atlantic Beach.
Nothing happened in Atlantic Beach. Sure, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Michelle Cook, and I come from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I retired there last year after just over 25 years of service with the Sheriff's Office. I retired as the number 3 under Sheriff Mike Williams, and when I left as the Director of Patrol and Enforcement, I had all of the 1,200 men and women who wear the blue uniform, who police 24/7 under my command. I also oversaw the over 1,000 special events that occurred in our city during that time. A little bit of background: I have experience with professional standards, internal affairs, accreditation, those sorts of things. Did a short stint with narcotics, which I did not like at all. Ran the training academy for a while prior to that, and did 17 years on the street in patrol. So pretty varied experience. Retired last year out of the drop, and after 31 days, decided to go back to work, and was very blessed to get the opportunity to come out here to Atlantic Beach, where I've been now for a year. I also serve on I'm a team leader for we have 5 state incident management teams, and so I'm the incident commander for the Region 3 team. So I will, at the request of the state and sometimes nationally, we've been deployed around the country a couple of times, take a team of people and we go help communities work through crisis. So I do that as well. And I also work for an organization called Alert, and I travel the country teaching active shooter incident management. So I help first line supervisors all the way up through police chiefs and sheriffs work through and manage active shooter events. And I think probably if you've noticed it all in Atlantic Beach, we've done, probably seen an uptick in active shooter training for citizens and our officers, and stuff like that. So that's what keeps me busy. Very much enjoy it. We really didn't have a whole lot on July 4th. It was actually quite fun. I rode around in our golf cart. We made one arrest that was, I would say, 4th of July related. It was a DUI arrest, a misdemeanor arrest. Our biggest challenge was illegally parked cars and open containers, which, as long as people were behaving, we really didn't bother anybody with an open container. And with the illegally parked cars, most of the people, we were able to find them and ask them politely to move their car, and they did. I think we ended up writing maybe a couple dozen parking citations, and I think we may have towed one car because we could not find the owner. So we were very fortunate. I think, like Chief Dooley said, the weather helped us out quite a bit, and the folks that came out to visit were super friendly, and we had no challenges. All right.
Any other issues you want to talk about?
We have no issues in I guess we can do Q&A after, if that's okay, Marie?
Hi, my name is Gary Snyder. I'm the commander of Patrol and Operations in Neptune Beach. So I began my law enforcement career back in 1981 as a correctional officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Wanted to go on the street, so I transitioned to patrol and came to work at Neptune Beach early on in my career. Ended up moving to Atlanta for 7.5 years, where I policed up there, and then returned to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, where I retired last year in 2017. Came to Neptune, back to my hometown here in Neptune Beach, where I was appointed as the commander over in this department. Really good to be home, and all my peeps are still here that I grew up with. So it makes it a great place to work. So for our 4th of July last year, I had just come here, and so we kind of reviewed the past years and what was going on in the world, and we realized that we really had to, our First Street corridor was our major problem. On the weekend, 4th of July, we have anywhere between 10 and 15,000 bicycles and pedestrians, house parties that are stretched through the entire length of First Street. So in previous years, they allowed traffic to commingle with the bicyclists and pedestrians, which caused an extreme hazard. So last year, we created a new footprint and closed traffic on First Street. With that said, we only have 19 police officers. Very manpower intensive for us to close these streets and not be able to impact our residents adversely. So we have to rely on our law enforcement partners. Sheriff Williams sent us 18 police officers to help us man the traffic positions. And our officers handled all the law enforcement duties along the First Street corridor, including our bike officers, and we had 2 officers working the beach as well. It's like last year, it went like clockwork. We didn't have one incident. We had 1 call for service on First Street during the day last year. This year, we had about 2 or 3, which were very minor, related to the parties. We had to close 1 party down because it was blocking the entire street on First Street. So we ended up closing that party down and moving them out. During the day, we made 2 arrests that were not related to First Street. They were at a local establishment where 2 gentlemen decided they wanted to get into a little dispute and fight it out in the parking lot. And then other than that, after hours, which was actually July 5th, we had a couple DUIs, which I think every city had to deal with that night as well. So that's really, it really went off great for us. We had plenty of help, and we actually got a lot of positive feedback from our residents. Our biggest thing was to make sure that our residents were able to get to their homes and not be impacted. That was one of the biggest things when you close off streets. At the same time, we have to worry about hostile vehicles entering our areas. So we had to get water barricades, and we had to strategically place those on First Street to put barriers on. It's not fail-safe, but it's better than not having anything. And, so our biggest thing was to limit the traffic, to keep them away from our pedestrians or our bicyclists. So it went off well. We didn't have anything that's overly remarkable that I could even tell you about, other than what we already have.
Thank you. So, so this is all good reports, it's really good news, and I think you're right, Wednesday helps, the middle of the week does help the crowd control. So we'll just go ahead and open it up for Q&A right now, and then I'd also like for them to talk about it, maybe it'll come up with some of the questions from the audience, but if there are any particular issues that you guys are kind of, because I know you work well together, and you play well together, but you really work as a team on a lot of these, especially on these big holidays and stuff, but just kind of day to day, if there are any particular issues that you're finding in common that, that you want us to be aware of, and then also, as I said, how can we as citizens really help you do your job better? I think that's really important because we're all a community, so we all need to learn and know how to work together. And if you could talk about maybe your Citizens Police Academy, Neptune Beach, you don't have your own Citizens Police Academy, but I know Lady Beach and Jack's Beach do, so maybe you can talk about those as well. But, if you want to go ahead and open it up for questions, we can do that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't need a microphone.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, in Neptune Beach, in the past, it seemed to me, I had a warped way of looking at things, but it was always, this year there was no hooting and hollering in the newspaper or anything, because in the past, Harriet Pruitt was always saying, like, this is, doomsday, this is the worst day of the year when you can call out all the troops and everything like that. And then, she wasn't in office this year, and Ms. Brown, Elaine didn't call anybody out or whatever, so from your report, it seemed like everything was quite good. And Chief Dooley, I live in Jack's Beach, and I have a 12-year-old little girl, and we went down to the second walkover south of the pier, walks the fireworks. I mean, we were right in the middle of the boardwalk, right in the middle of all the people coming over the dunes and everything like that. And we were quite safe, comfortable. We've been doing this for years, and so I wholeheartedly commend. I saw many people in uniform. I walked down the boardwalk. There were many people stationed around, so I know there was everything you could possibly do, and we had a successful 4th of July. Now, on a second note for Chief Dooley and you guys too, I noticed at Jack Beach Elementary, I saw a lot of fire trucks and a lot of police cars there for a short period of time. So I had guessed y'all were doing some sort of active shooter training in there, or?
I'm not sure when you saw that, but we have been doing active shooter training, and we've also trained our personnel on the geographics of the building itself, so we know what the layout of the building is. So we do have to go in there.
You're going in each school, right?
Yes, sir.
So everybody knows the
Yes, sir.
hallway is dead end,
And not to speak out of turn, but all three of us have talked about making sure that all of our employees are trained for the Atlantic Beach schools and Neptune and vice versa, because we are all going to be each other's first responders
Right.
in a situation like that. The sheriff's office obviously will be coming, but our people will probably be the initial people going in, and whichever agency it is, and making initial contact if there is a threat. And so we're all trying to make sure that we know each other's buildings very well.
That's a sad statement on, when I went to school, we got to get under your desk and pull your hands over your head for a nuclear attack. But now to have an active shooter training drill in school is, pretty terrible. It is what it is. So I commend you all for making sure that everybody knows how to get down the hallway and everybody else in school and working together on that. God help us if it ever happens. I pray it don't. Thank you all for being there.
Okay, yes, I have a question for you. I had another question, but now that you start talking about the hallways and everything, it's a good way for me to segue into what I want to talk about. Is that the cook, is that enough training for these people that will be guarding our elementary schools? How much training do you think is
Are you talking about the school board program too?
Yes, it's a mandate. We're going to have to have something, but what is your take on that?
Sure. I don't work for the sheriff's office anymore, but I will tell you that the sheriff's office and the school board are partnering up on that program. I do know the team of officers that are training those people,
Yeah.
and it doesn't get any better than that. I don't know who the school board is hiring, but let me just say this. Even if there's an officer or a security officer assigned to every school at the beach, we will still be there. We will still be responding. And I would venture to guess that if something were to happen at the school, the response time would probably be about 30 seconds by one of our officers. So we are very fortunate out here to have such small communities so that the officers are there very quickly. Unlike Jacksonville, who the closest officer may be 10 or 15 minutes away. So I'm very confident and comfortable with the active shooter training that the 3 beaches are doing. Very confident and comfortable that no matter who the school board puts in those schools, we will still be supporting them, as we do now. And I'm very comfortable with the team of officers that are training those folks that are going into the schools.
Okay, thank you. Now that I have the floor, may I ask my second question?
Real quick.
Okay, to you, I'm on the community redevelopment agency down here. We put surveillance equipment in down there. How is that helping you do your job?
Okay. It's actually came into play. We finally got the installation finished on the 3rd of July.
Okay.
So obviously it was a priority for us to get that done. We had to overcome a lot of technical hurdles with the equipment, but we got to where we needed to be, and it's actually a very, very big help for us. We were able to see things that before we couldn't have. When we get a call downtown or somewhere in the area where the cameras are giving us coverage, we could actually turn a camera to see what was going on and actually tell the officers before they get there what they're looking for and what has actually happened. So it's a very, very good tool. I don't want to talk about the specifics of the camera system because it does come down to homeland security issues. It's critical infrastructure that we're concerned with, so we're not going to tell too much about what it's capable of and start showing a lot of pictures of it. But it is a very, very good system that's turning out to be a good tool for us. As you may have seen on the news in the last couple of weeks, we've had incidents in the downtown area where we've tried to get some information out via cars or something like that that have been around a scene of an incident. So we use the cameras then to take pictures of those cars and send those out to the community to help us track people down. So that's, it's already become useful for us in many ways. CRA was very helpful in making that happen for us.
Mayor Brown?
Thank you. Accolades, both chiefs, Commander. As we've seen, this was a Wednesday, and you talked a little bit about numbers. First of all, let me tell you, you guys have got this now. You're really doing such a great job. The numbers, they were a little different because of it being maybe during the week. However, they could get worse. What can we assume in the future if you're looking at the numbers and they're growing that we might need? Because you've got great partnerships with JSO. You guys have got great partnerships, and you've got that. You know what you're doing. You know about your crowd control now, and I think we're all seeing the benefits of that. However, are those numbers growing, and is there something more that any of you see in the future that we might need to consider or talk about?
Sure. The beaches are very attractive to people who live across the ditch. I can say that now. And so a couple of things need to happen. There needs to be a constant communication between the three beaches and the sheriff's office, and lots of pre-planning. Lots of planning, lots of discussion, lots of conversation, and an awareness of what's going on around the country. And I think Commander Snyder mentioned water barricades because of a hostile vehicle. 15 years ago, we didn't worry about hostile vehicles, vehicles driving into crowded pedestrians. So what we have to do is pay attention to what's going on nationally with crowds, crowd control, soft targets, and then look at the factors such as what day of the week is this event going to be on? What's the weather look like? What's the expected type of crowd? Are we looking at a crowd of senior citizens who are coming down for a pinning ceremony? And you smile, but senior citizen groups, we have to have more medical staff on scene to make sure we have chairs for everybody versus a bunch of 20-year-olds who are going to be slam dancing to heavy metal music. So we really have to know our crowds. And we got very fortunate this year because the 4th of July crowd was a family crowd. And I think if we keep, as a beach community, talking about the family 4th of July crowd, the family 4th of July crowd, then those who aren't a family 4th of July crowd will go back to the landing. And since I no longer am responsible for the landing, that is a very good place for those folks to go. So I think it's being aware of what's going on nationally with crowd control and crowd dynamics. Being in constant communication with each other about what are we seeing. Something as simple as a road that's offline because of construction can have a huge impact on one of our communities. And then the pre-planning, lots of pre-planning, and we take planning, we do planning a little bit differently now. It used to be that you planned by just bringing more people in and then you put them places. What we do now is we look at our place and say, where do we need the people? So just a little bit different take on how we plan, but it's actually working very well, and I think as long as we're paying attention to what's going on, it'll continue to work well.
I have one thing. In Jacksonville Beach, we have some circumstances that are a little bit different than the other two beaches because we have that bar district in the downtown area. And during the week, this year, it was obviously an advantage to the city because it was not conducive to have people come out for the full weekend, try to get the full bar experience for 2 or 3 days, and then we ended up having some kind of problem. Being on a Wednesday was definitely to our advantage this year. We know as it creeps closer to the weekend that it's going to become more of an issue, especially in that core downtown area. Then again, that's exactly some of the same things that Chief Cook is mentioning is that we have to be very mindful of our pedestrian and vehicle traffic through that downtown area, trying to blend them with cars. At some point, we have to stop doing that because it's just not practical, it's not safe. So we have to be very mindful of all those things. And much like you said, Mayor, we've done this for a long time so we can predict a lot of things. Obviously, we can't predict everything, and we can't predict in every case what type of people are going to come out to the beach and what their intentions are. But we try to make sure that we manage it in such a respect that if something happens, bad as it may be, we have the ability to react properly. And that's one of the things that goes into that long-term planning in advance. What are the options if this happens, if that happens? How are we going to respond? How are we going to react? She also mentioned special events. That's a huge deal in our city, and I'm very concerned about what a soft target some of our downtown can be during those special events. And that's a conversation that we wouldn't have had 10 years ago. But it is a conversation that we're going to have to consider in the very near future. If we're going to be in the special event business, then we need to take into mind that we have to shift our paradigm to protect that special event area in a much different way than we would have done previously. And so there's a lot of things that we have to continue to plan for in the future and shift our paradigm. And, you know, even things like the marathon and everything, you know, with cars crossing the street inside of that marathon. Those are things that are, in all practical purposes, from all the best practices that are out there, don't ever do that. But yet we're still having to do that because we're having to adjust on the fly right now still for races. And we have a lot of races through Jacksonville Beach. Not all of them, obviously, the length of a marathon. But each one of those has their own special set of challenges. And so, because of the world changing as it is, we have to constantly be thinking for the future. We're going to have to look at these events and things that we're doing a little bit differently. And that's one of the things that, you know, that's what we get paid to do is think down the road. And worst case scenario. So that's what we try to do with a lot of them.
My question's on.
I'm sorry, Jim, did you?
Is there an estimate of the total crowd for the weekend? And do the interlocal agreements between the various cities and the county give you enough resources to draw on in the event of a major occurrence, whether it's a hurricane or a nor'easter or a special event? Can you draw on enough resources from the county?
The short answer is yes. I mean, obviously, if something happens in Neptune, Atlantic Beach, wherever it happens, Jacksonville Beach, the others are going to come to our aid immediately. The sheriff's office is going to do the same thing. Now, the sheriff's office, it may take some of their people a little bit longer to get here because they're going to be coming from all over the county because each zone may release people come over here to help us, depending upon what the specific incident is. But, you know, I mean, we can also draw from St. Johns County. We have mutual aid with St. Johns County. They're very willing to come up to Jacksonville Beach and help us anytime we ask. And as far as hurricanes go, our communication and cooperation with not just each other during hurricanes, but with the sheriff is phenomenal. I can't tell you how many times just over cell phone calls the sheriff and I communicated the last time. I talked to Sheriff Shore as much as I talked to Sheriff Williams. So that communication is there. Our people are always talking to each other. It might not be chief to chief all the time, but it's certainly commander to commander or commander to whomever. And we know what each other need. We're never going to leave each other hanging, ever. Our mutual aid agreements are, I feel, very solid and sound, and we need those. None of us are big enough that we can do everything by ourselves all the time. And we've always had that history of helping each other.
Yeah, my question had to do with, I guess maybe it was the camera, because I was watching on the news and I saw a bunch of people on a Saturday night, 1 o'clock in the morning, running around looking crazy, doing stuff. And I was just wondering if that's been going on a long time. There was a big fight.
Yeah.
Is that a common occurrence? I mean, I've lived here only 4
Well,
years. I don't know.
Let's put it this way. When you have as many alcohol establishments in a small area that we have, and you put that many people down there, Jacksonville Beach has a tremendous amount of public parking.
Okay.
You put all these things together, draw all these things down there, and then give all those folks alcohol, sooner or later something bad is going to happen. And that's what does happen on occasion. In this particular case, I think you're talking about one that was on the news.
It was a murder,
cell phone
yeah.
video. Yeah. And I think there have been 2 on the news recently that were cell phone videos of fights. And in both of those cases, you know, that's exactly what it is. It's people that get down there, it's late at night, usually around 2 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, the bars start closing. And yeah, we do have fights. Both of those instances, I will say, that they were all on view by other officers, so they were broken up pretty quickly. I think only one actually had an arrest. That was the one where you see the officers engaging with one individual. But yeah, I mean, they do happen. Fights happen down there on a fairly regular basis. That's the reality of what we deal with in an entertainment district that serves alcohol to a lot of people.
I wanted to ask, how has the opioid epidemic affected police work over the last few years?
I will say this, I'm on the search committee for the medical examiner, and we were meeting this morning, and I think it was from January to June of 2016, there were 184 deaths, and then between January and June of this year, it's like 390.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's I can tell you, we've seen it some in Atlanta Beach. Either 2 or 3 deaths since I've been there, and several overdoses. So we are definitely seeing it. I don't know what the answer is right now. I know there's a whole lot of smart people looking at it, but for us, we definitely felt the effects.
And you've always been called to these things, you had to respond to them.
Yes, ma'am. The police officers are typically dispatched if it's a drug overdose. If we know it at the time,
Yeah.
then yes, ma'am. Police officers are dispatched.
And it's the same situation for us. This year, I know we've had 2 opioid deaths already. I believe last year we had about 8, I think 8 or 12. I can't, for some reason those 2 numbers are sticking in my head from last year. And it is a constant problem. Now, our fire department carries the Narcan, which in and of itself is an interesting topic because we've had people in certain situations where we've been called, they'll be given a dose of Narcan, come back from their OD, we take them to the hospital. They get out of the hospital, later that same day, they'll OD again, they'll give them another whack of Narcan, take them to the hospital, they get released, and either on the 3rd or the 4th try, they'll end up ODing and can't get them back. That's in one day. The same person will OD 3 or 4 times. Narcan is a remarkable tool, but sometimes you just can't save people from themselves. And that's a very unfortunate situation. I don't think anybody really has a real answer. It's going to take a lot of avenues to come together to start to see a decrease in this. I think the state legislature is moving in the right direction, trying, but there's a lot of work to do with this yet. It's far too available.
If there is an active shooter situation in a school, what's the chain of command once our own police departments get to the school?
Sure. So, yeah. Do what?
That's
Yeah.
the
First one there's in charge. Right.
It sounds.
So the school officer is going to be in charge?
So typically, now, in all reality, typically what will happen in communities where there's multiple jurisdictions who may be in play, and multiple agencies responding, and multiple agencies who may have jurisdiction, or who have some claim to jurisdiction, the transition of authority will change as the incident evolves. So if something happens in, let's say in Jax Beach, and the Jax Beach officers there, and they respond, and let's say that myself and Commander Snyder respond, and everybody is there, Jax Beach is in charge initially, right? Now let's just say that Jax Beach, all the officers are on the inside, and one of us show up, and we're the only supervisor standing outside, and because all their officers are inside. We're training that somebody's got to stand and be in charge, at least initially. So if all of his folks are deployed inside, one of us is going to stand outside and say, okay, hold on, I'm in charge. Let's start wrapping our arms around this. Now, depending on where it happens on school grounds, there may be some argument for, does the beach jurisdiction have authority? Does the school board have authority? Or does the sheriff have authority, depending on school playground, road next to school, inside school building? But I will tell you this, that would all be worked through very quickly, because the lessons learned from all the incidents past is you don't have those arguments. That needs to be worked out very quickly and established very quickly. And we're all comfortable with let's have a 30-second conversation. Where did it happen? Okay, who has jurisdictional authority at this point? And that will typically come into play once the bad guy is down and the injured or pulled out is where some jurisdictional authority will start to happen. Because up until the bad guy is down and the injured are removed, we're not talking about jurisdictional authority. We're talking about stopping the killing and stopping the dying. And we've all agreed to that.
Chief Dooley, Commander Snyder talked a little bit about the support that Neptune Beach got for July 4th. Can you tell us a little bit about what you had set up for July 4th this year? And
Yes, we actually had, not positive number, but I think it was about 12 or 13 JSO personnel that were working traffic for us. I know we had 5 people from St. Johns County that came up to help us out with traffic, and then we also had a corrections officer. Although assigned to Jacksonville Beach, he was there for any of the 3 beaches that needed transport of prisoners downtown. So the sheriff is being really great about sending us out, somebody from the corrections department, the jail van, so that if any of us have arrests, we're not sending our personnel downtown. He's doing that for us. So he's been doing that since, actually Sheriff Rutherford was doing that before he left office. So that's been going on for a long time. Sheriff Williams has continued that. That's a huge help for us, so we don't have to send 2, 3, 4 people down when we don't have those 14 arrests. So that's basically the help that we got from JSO. Most of it's traffic, and that's because we want our officers to be handling the downtown core area and calls for service.
Other conversations about use of officer body cameras? And do you have status on that, or just talking about it, or not thinking about that?
Well, I can tell you what my position on it is. I love body cameras. I think they're a wonderful thing. I'd love to have body cameras for every officer. Quite honestly, I'm waiting until the sheriff's office does all of their test and evaluation. They get all of the data storage, cloud issues resolved, and get some costs for that, so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that when this does come about, it's time for us to ask to move forward on this. Somebody else has done it. Essentially, I can basically tag off what the sheriff's office does and take that to our city council, and then they'll make a decision whether or not that's something that they choose to do. So that's my personal position on it.
Yeah, for us, we have in-car cameras, we have dash cameras that record from the dash and that have the audio. The officer has the recorder on the body. Same thing as Chief Dooley said, there's a lot of money and time and effort that goes into determining the type of body camera. Specifically, the camera itself is the easy part. It's the storage and the public records requests and the adherence to privacy laws that the sheriff has kind of jumped into with both feet. And so we're also taking the position that we're gonna wait and see. We couldn't afford the T&E right now. We just couldn't afford it as a community. So we're gonna wait to see what they land on and hopefully piggyback on what they land on.
Is collective bargaining going to be a problem?
I don't see it as an issue. Probably each union has a different view on it. I think in our particular case, I think most of the officers view them as a very, very positive thing. And I really don't hear any negative feedback from officers about the prospect of these cameras. Much like Chief Cook said, we've had video cameras in our cars for years. The officers love them. They're a great tool. And they usually confirm our suspicions when someone makes a claim that an officer did or said. So they're a great tool.
What they said. We're pretty much watching what the sheriff's doing. Like Chief Cook said, the expenses, the data, and maintaining the data and fulfilling the public records request. For instance, the sheriff had to establish an entire unit to maintain that data and for their public records. So that's an entire, I think he's got 6 or 7 in that unit, and a manager that has to manage that program as well as all their public records. So I can tell you the expense of that would be difficult for our small city to deal with. With that said, our specialized units, we will be putting cameras in our DUI units. We do have outdated cameras in the cars right now. Technology is constantly changing to where we can't even, when something goes down, we can't get parts for them or they can't be repaired. So there's expense in that we're replacing them as we can as they go down.
Everybody wants public services, including, law enforcement and fire and safety, but nobody wants to pay for it. And how comfortable are the three of you with the compensation packages that you're able to offer now for your police officers? Can you attract and keep good people?
Historically, Neptune Beach has very, very low turnover. The officers that they do lose, we usually lose them to the federal branches. We really don't have a big retention problem because we pay a good wage. They have a good benefit. They have a defined pension. So we're probably better off than a lot of the agencies that are struggling now with pension issues and pay issues. But I can tell you that nationwide, that every law enforcement agency is struggling to fill vacancies. And that's because of the pay, it's because of a lot of blame is not on the media, but there is a public distrust because of isolated incidents. And so young folks are hesitant to get involved in that. And especially if they don't have a pension to look forward to later on in life. So, I mean, nowadays, I would have done this for free back in the day. These kids are looking well ahead than what we did as children.
Yeah, to piggyback off what Commander Snyder said, it's interesting because we are typically trying to keep up with the larger agencies and trying to offer a pay and benefits package that is in line with what the larger agencies do. And quite honestly, we probably need to be just a little bit better because the larger agencies offer the young officers more opportunity to move around within the agency. At JSO, you can be a patrol officer, you can ride a golf cart, you can ride a bicycle, you can ride a boat, you can ride a horse, you can ride a motorcycle, you can fly a helicopter. At Atlanta Beach, we got bicycles, right? So to keep the interest of the younger officers who come to work for us, we typically have to pay a little bit more. It's always, it's a balance, it's a struggle. I think my HR manager is here, so I think it is a constant struggle. I will tell you two things that I harp on. Number one, to hire and train a brand new police officer costs between $75,000 and $100,000. So every time somebody leaves, that's your initial investment to get that person back. The other thing, and it's more an intrinsic value, you can't put a monetary value on it, is that an officer starts feeling community. They start feeling belonging. They start feeling ownership of a community, the community that they ride. And that typically takes a couple, 2-3 years when the officer drives by and people call them by name and wave at them. So it typically takes 2 or 3 years. The first year, the officer is trying to figure out how to put their uniform on, right? And they're trying not to get lost. They're trying to make it to work on time. That's their goal. The second year, they're getting a little bit more comfortable. They're out and about a little bit more. By year 3, they own that community. They're like, these are my people, and I want to protect them. If you get to that 1, 2, 3 year mark, and they're thinking, I can't afford this. I got to go to the bigger agency because I can't afford this. Then we're losing that sense of ownership that these young men and women start to develop, and the community starts developing towards their officers. And you can't put a monetary value on that, but I think especially for small communities, when you find those special officers who really understand community policing and really understand how to provide service in a small town, to me there's not a value you can put on that. And keeping those folks at the agency is what's important, and you have to pay them and provide them benefits that will keep them there.
She's absolutely right. I mean, it's all about being competitive. we feel, obviously, that any of the other beaches agencies are going to be competitive in pay and benefit packages. Personally, I think that we're in a better way now with our new union contract in Jacksonville Beach. Excuse me. I think we're very competitive. I think that having a defined benefit to offer the young officers is a very big advantage for us. I think our future is good. One of the challenges that we find, and they've all touched on it, is the workforce is not what it used to be for law enforcement. There aren't as many people that want to be police officers, and the ones that do, once they get into it, they have a different mindset of what this job is. Much like when we all started, if we were told that we're asked to work overtime, to us that was where the word voluntold came in, because if they asked you, you pretty much going to work the overtime, or, you know, we need you to do this. Now, people, they want to go home at the end of their shift after the 10 hours. They don't want to work any extra overtime or anything like that. They have a certain expectation of the job, and it's very different than what some of the older folks in the profession had when we came into law enforcement. Carry that. And so, you know, the millennials just have a different take on the workforce in general. And so we find that as a challenge, because sometimes they get into it and what their picture of law enforcement is, and then the reality of it when they come to work there and they're there for 6 months or so, is very, very different. And so that's always a challenge, because those are very costly things. These people come in, we interview them, you know, we talk about it in depth before we give somebody the opportunity to come work for us. And I guess it's like anything else. It's like a marriage. You never really know until you live with someone. But they all don't really want to be policemen when it comes right down to it, or police women. And so the job isn't for them. So and that hurts, because it's financially cumbersome on us, and then we have to start the process over. But right now, I feel, as far as the packages that we offer right now, I feel we're very, very competitive. St. Johns County is to me the new JSO, because they are still on a defined benefit program through the state. They are a growing agency. They're very aggressive. They've got a great sheriff there. And so if people are looking for a big agency with a defined benefit, that's where my competition really goes there. So, but, you know, I mean, everybody, not all the young people coming in are even thinking about pensions in some cases, so they don't care if they have a defined benefit or not. They don't start thinking about retirement, because they think they're never going to retire until they get to my age, which they probably would have a defined benefit or something.
Okay, so we are about 5 minutes away from 8 o'clock. I'd like to keep everything on time to respect everybody's time. So if are there any more questions before I kind of wrap it up? Because I'd like for them to share about the Citizens, who knows about the Citizens Police Academy that's offered in Atlantic Beach and Jax Beach? How many of you attended or served? Oh, wow. Well, most of you guys do know that. But for the ones who didn't raise your hand, this is, I think, a way for you to really see that other side. I mean, really, you know, see what the officers do on a day-to-day basis. Experience it, do it. You know, you get to work alongside of them. You actually get to dust for fingerprints, which is really cool. You get to go to the shooting range. So I'm not going to say everything, but I think I just want to touch on it a little bit. And you don't have to live in the city to attend their police academy. So, so if you guys just want to kind of talk about your...
Absolutely. So we've got one coming up, and I don't know when it starts, but we do have one coming up. We, as Maria just stated, we do, you get exposed to all parts of the agency. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time. We come in and give you presentations. We do everything from show you some different videos about and down how things have happened and putting your hands on stuff. And I'll come in and even go through the budget with the group to talk about how we spend our money and where we spend our money and why. So it's kind of a top to bottom overview of the agency. We also just started a volunteer program. I'm going to plug in for my volunteer program. So we just started a volunteer program a few months ago. You come in, you do a little bit of training, and since we started about 3 months ago, we just hit 1,000 hours of donated time mark with our volunteers, so pretty happy about that. So we have two things. We have the Citizens Police Academy, which we are accepting applications for now. You can go to, we have a Facebook page that has some information on there, or our website. And then we also have a Citizens Volunteer Program, which we're always recruiting folks. And it doesn't, there's no minimum hours, so if you can give an hour a month, we'll take it. But a lot of fun, and I would encourage, even if you've been to the Jacks Beach Police Academy, Citizens Police Academy, come take a look at ours, and I promise you you'll have a good time.
We have a lot of people that go to both and enjoy it that much. So our Citizen Police Academy class, Tom, how many? 41. 41. Wow. We've been doing it now for over 20 years, so that's really incredible for us. But it starts tomorrow evening at 6:30. It goes 10 weeks. And again, Commander Crumley is going to help facilitate the next class along with Sergeant Larry Smith, who's actually going to be taking over the classes now for us. But again, we do the same thing. We open our doors to you. I will say, as I always say, the first night is probably the most boring because that's when we meet the administrative staff and learn a little bit about our budget and those kinds of things. And then we get to the police officers who can tell you what the job is really like. And we'll cover everything from SWAT, K-9 to DUI, to evidence technicians, and everything that we do. And there's no bad questions that you can ask us in this kind of thing. The interesting part about this is, I think, that after a couple of weeks being around the officers, you start to get an understanding of what the job is really like and not what the TV perception of being a policeman is about. That's what we're trying to get away from. And we coined a phrase many years ago. I can't take credit for it. Steve Corbett, who's one of our commanders, who's going to be retiring soon, came up with the word infotainment for this. And that's exactly what we try to do. We try to make it very entertaining. But we try to make it very informative as well, because we want you to see how your tax dollars are being spent. We want you to understand when we do something, usually there's a method to our madness, why we do what we do, and why we maybe have to do it a certain way that to some people might not make sense. So we want to make sure that we're showing you really what we do, how we do it, and why. So that's what the Citizen Police Academy is all about. So if anybody would like to go to the Jacks Beach one that starts tomorrow, Mayor Crumley's in the back of the room. Make that happen for you real soon. I think the people that have been can say that they've had an enjoyable experience, whether it was in Jacksonville Beach or Atlantic Beaches Academy. So it's a great program. It's a good way to get involved. And we have two levels of volunteers. We have the Citizen Police Academy Alumni Association, which do a lot of volunteering in the station, and then they do some of the beach patrols and things like that for us. They help out with our animals and animal control. But then we have the Citizens on Patrol, which are actually in uniform. They go out, they assist us with traffic crashes, they do parking tickets, and they take some minor reports for nonviolent crimes and things like that. So they're a huge help for us as they set eyes for us. So anyway, that's basically in a nutshell what Jacksonville Beach does.
And how many hours did the volunteers give Jacks Beach Police Department last year?
Last year it was about 13,000, if I'm not mistaken. Is that pretty close?
Yes. On average, over the last 4 years, we've averaged 13,000 over the last 4 years.
And that equates to dollars. Those folks don't come in and just stand around and do nothing. They're in there entering our parking tickets, they're working the records, they're working our front desk. They do the beach patrol hours for us. They help us with the dogs when the animal control officers aren't there. And I mean, that's a huge deal because somebody has to take care of the dogs when no one's working. And so that, and cats. Equal opportunity. But those are very, very valuable to us. And what's interesting about our program, and I'm not going to take a whole lot of time with it, is the people that do that for us now, it's actually interesting because when we first started, there was a little bit of resistance from inside the park because people were, the officers were suspicious of it. And now, first of all, they love it because they realize all the things that all these volunteers come in and do. And wow, they really are sincere in what they're trying to do for the police department. And now they're just like regular employees. People see them in the office, hey, I've seen you walk, how you been? And it's really kind of a neat transition that I've seen over the 20 years of the program. So something we're really, really proud of at Jacksonville Beach.
All right, well, let's have a hand. Thank you again very much. This is one of our most popular meetings that we hold annually, and you guys do a fantastic job. But yeah, definitely check out the Citizens Police Academy if you really want to see what our men and women are, what they do every day, and you get to do it too. physical toughness that you guys have to endure. So that ends our program for the evening. Thank you so much for coming. Please don't forget to take one of our brochures if you're not a member. Make sure you take the agenda
That
and
was
hold
the
on.
thing I did as citizens and gathered